Back Home Media.
Hello, everyone. Hey, welcome to the Saturday Breakdown here, presented by Back Home Media. Get Kent with me again this weekend. Week 5 is almost over. The notable exception would be Lawrence and Bishop Carroll, which are playing this evening, I believe. So that ought to be a heck of a matchup there between Lawrence and Bishop Carroll. But we're going to talk about the games that have happened. And of course, big story for me, at least, and for people from Liberal is Liberal got a big win last night over Garden City, 20-6 over Garden City. Yeah, I'm sure Kent's not happy with that, but
yeah, breaks my heart.
Yeah, the good news for Liberal is that broke several streaks for Liberal. For one thing, it was Liberal's first home WAC win since 2008. Liberal's first win over Garden City since 2007. And broke an 11-game losing streak for Liberal. So it was a big win for the Redskins last night. To be honest with you, I felt like we played really well in all three facets of the game. The offense was more productive than it has been all year. The defense played extremely well. As a matter of fact, held Garden City to only 59 yards in the second half. And special teams won the field position battle all night too, which was big in the game as well. But we can't just talk about that. We got to move on to some other games. Also in the WAC last night, Hayes was open, and Dodge City dropped Great Bend 35-14. So that leaves basically, let's see, Liberal will have Great Bend this next week, and Dodge City and Hayes still have to play each other in the WAC. I think those are the only two WAC games left, I believe. Okay. So that's kind of where we're headed there. Hayes looks like they're going to be the WAC champion. Nobody can catch them now. But it basically leaves everybody else fighting it out for second place, especially Garden City, Liberal, and Dodge. In the High Plains League last night, Syracuse lost to Cimarron. I don't have the score written down. We'll get that to you later I've got it written down on the other page. I just didn't get it transferred to this one. So Syracuse lost to Cimarron last night. Syracuse falls to 3-2. Cimarron improves to 3-2, but Syracuse's two losses are both in district play. So Syracuse behind in the district. Elkhart got their first win of the year last night. 16-28 over Sublette. So the Wildcats are in the win column. Lakin moved to 3-2 with a 58-26 win over Southwestern Heights. Heights falls to 1-4 now on the season. And Stanton County got blanked by Whitewater Remington 38-0. Let's see. In the GWAC, what I had kind of picked as our game of the week for this area was Colby and Southeast of Saline. Both teams 4-0 coming into the game. I thought that was going to be a pretty good game. Southeast of Saline handled Colby pretty easily, though, 32-8. Holcomb and Larned, that was 4-0 Holcomb versus 0-3 Larned. Holcomb handles Larned pretty handily, 43-13. Not a big surprise there. Excuse me. In one of our games that shows how fluid schedules can be, Hugoton was supposed to have 0-4 Nickerson this week. And I believe it was Wednesday that Nickerson canceled because they've got some positive tests, and they're going to have some players on quarantine. Hugoton looked for someone to fill the slot with. They ended up with Canadian Texas, whose game with Spearman had been canceled for COVID-19 reasons. Unfortunately for Hugoton, Canadian got got all over the Eagles 52-14. Canadian is historically a pretty good program down there in the Texas Panhandle. I knew that Hugoton was going to have their hands full with Canadian.
I did see a nice it was about a 40-yard pass from the Hugoton quarterback there for one of those touchdowns.
Yeah.
They were able to figure out a few things and get some things going, but yeah, Canadian's tough.
Yeah, Canadians, they've had some real talent the last few years. But you're right. Hugoton's got an excellent quarterback. He's been showing some great things this year. A very close game between Goodland and Smoky Valley. Goodland loses by 1 to Smoky Valley, 20-21. Goodland falls to 2-3 on the year, and Smoky Valley improves to 2-3 on the year. Scott City 20-0 over Russell. Scott City improves to 3-2 on the year. Here's the Cimarron Syracuse score: Cimarron 36, Syracuse 14. And Ulysses got another win, 2 in a row for the Tigers over Borger, Texas last night, 20-8. Ulysses beats Borger. Again, that was another of those games that was caused by COVID rescheduling. Okay. In the Southern Plains Iroquois League, we've got in our second game of the week, 4-0 South Gray was taking on 2-0 Meade, and South Gray wins that game 30-12. 4-0 Spearville against 3-1 Hodgman County. I knew this was going to be a good game. Hodgman County gets the win 22-30. And we had 2-2 Mineola versus 2-2 South Central. South Central wins that one 30-14. Buckland gets a win over Satanta 62-16. That's Buckland's second win of the season. I think that may be Buckland's first 2-win season in at least 2 or 3 years. Kiowa County got a big win last night for their second win of the season, 45-0 over St. John. And Ingalls got their first win of the year last night. Ingalls 52-28 over Dighton. So those were the games from the WAC, the HPL, the GWAC, and the Southern Plains Iroquois League. Now we're going to take a look at some of the games around the state in general. There were a couple of surprises. A couple of games that were surprisingly close, a couple of big games between powerhouse programs, and we'll kind of start to take a look at those and talk about them a little bit as we go through the list. Guys, we're getting down to, we've finished week 5. Everybody has 3 regular season games left, okay? And for the 3-2-1A schools, those 3 games are all district games, and they'll decide the playoffs, obviously. 4, 5, and 6A, everybody makes the playoffs, but these last 3 games are going to be big games as far as affecting your seeding. So that's kind of where we are in the season, and we're winding down. And some of those cancellations that have occurred are going to start to become a bigger deal in the last 3 weeks of the season here. Okay.
Now, Coach, have we earlier this season you were talking about if you had a division opponent and you had to cancel that game, you forfeited.
Yeah, and
have we seen any of that happening yet?
Yeah, we have, and I don't know what the state's ruling on it has been. It doesn't look to me like it looks to me like they've done away with that rule where if you forfeit one district game, you forfeit all of them. And that's good because, obviously teams can't help forfeiting games here. Maybe they're not scoring those games as forfeits. Maybe they're just scoring them as a cancellation. I'm not sure. Okay. But I know I'm not seeing it reflected in the district standings. The thing is, though, when you go by a point system tiebreaker, it's going to screw up your point system. That's the only problem. That was the whole justification behind if you forfeit one district game, you forfeit them all. That was to keep from screwing up the point system. And so, I'm not sure how it will affect it if it comes down to tiebreakers. But, the tiebreaker, while it still exists, is probably not nearly as critical. Most of these districts now are 6-team districts, and 3 teams out of each district make the playoffs, I think. Okay. I'm not. I would have to double check on that. Unfortunately, I have gotten away from 3-2-1A ball too much, having coached 5A ball the last 10 years or 11 seasons. But I need to double check on that. I think it's still just 2 though from each district that make the playoffs.
Yeah,
I will double check on that and make sure that I'm not being an idiot on that. So yeah, it could still come into play for sure. Couple of games happened on Thursday this week. Junction City 63-13 over Topeka West, and Olathe East 28-6 over Shawnee Mission North. Those were the only 2 Thursday games that I saw. So the rest of these took place last night. One that I highlighted because it was a lot closer than I expected it to be. And actually, I really thought Andover Central would win this game, but Valley Center beats Andover Central 14-12. That was a tough game, obviously, there. And we'll talk about a couple of other surprises as we kind of go through this. In 8-man ball, Atwood 46, Blue Valley Randolph 0. That to me was notable for 2 reasons. Number one, I believe it is Blue Valley Randolph's first game of the year. Okay, we're in week 5, and I believe they're playing their first game of the year. Wow. Number 2, from Blue Valley to Atwood. Talk about clear across the state, right? Atwood's up in northwest Kansas, Blue Valley obviously in northeast Kansas. Yeah, I have that just amazed me that those 2 are playing, but it shows you how desperate schools are to fill a schedule right now, And so that's kind of what we're dealing with there. Miege and St. James Academy, another one that a lot of people were expecting to be a pretty good game, and it wasn't bad. Miege wins that one 38-28. So Miege getting back on the winning side of things after their loss last week. Blue Valley 37, Blue Valley West 7, Blue Valley Northwest 42, Blue Valley Southwest 19. Buhler continues to win with a 41-21 win over Augusta. Back to 8-man ball, Burton 45, Deerfield 31. Ulysses 20, Borger, Texas 7. We've already talked about that one a little bit. Hugoton 14, Canadian Texas 52. Fredonia got a big win last night, 35-20 over Neodesha. And in the battle of the Goddard schools, Goddard High 31-10 over Eisenhower. That's always a big rivalry game there. Andale, to show you how strong Andale is, Heston was a ranked team in Class 3A. Andale wins 66-7 at Heston. So Andale is definitely rolling right now.
And they're the state champs from last year, aren't they? And
yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Hey, another one. Hutch started off strong. Hutch started off 4-0. Yeah. Last night, Hutch falls to Andover 14-7. That was a surprise to me. I really did not expect Andover to beat Hutch last night. Let's see. In another game that I thought would be a lot closer than it ended up being, Mill Valley, who has lost 2 games in a row, Mill Valley bounced back last night with a 52-0 win over Lawrence Free State.
Wow.
Yeah, Free State has looked pretty good at times this year. They really have, but Mill Valley had no trouble at all with Free State last night, and that's despite the fact that Mill Valley had lost 2 in a row. Mm-hmm. Little River 38, Canton Galva 56. That's a little 8-man action for you there. And Leota continues to win big in 8-man. Leota 58 over Ness City 8. Another one that surprised me a little bit last night, Ellsworth 27, Norton 20. That's a big win for Ellsworth. Yeah. Now, Norton may be down this year, but still, Ellsworth beating Norton any year is a big win for them. Let's see. I've got more here. There we go. My papers are sticking together, apparently.
Smith Center rolled Oakley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Smith Center was big over Oakley. Smith Center is obviously, last year Smith Center was down a little. They're obviously back up this year. And when I say down a little, I mean down a little for Smith Center, not for most people. Yeah. Okay, so in other action, getting back up in the northeastern part of the state, Olathe North, and this was a big win for them. Olathe North 28, Gardner Edgerton 7. Gardner Edgerton beat Mill Valley last week. Yeah. Okay. And this week they lose 28-7 to Olathe North. Now, Olathe North is a good team. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, after beating Mill Valley, I was expecting Gardner Edgerton to be flying high. Of course, and I'm going to say this with any of our games that are going on this year, you never know what's going on, right? I mean, they may be missing several players, or any school from week to week, there's just no telling what's going on with their rosters. Yeah. Because of COVID-19. And so that's why we sometimes see some real surprises, I think. Yep. Olathe South was 16, Olathe Northwest 23. Cape and Mount Carmel, which last week did not play because of COVID-19 quarantines, this week dropped a 49-0 beat down on Pittsburgh. So that's a pretty big win for Cape and Mount Carmel, although they have certainly looked good this year. Shawnee Mission Northwest played St. Thomas Aquinas close. Aquinas wins at 35-34. So that was a big game right there, a very important game up in the East Kansas League. Let's see. Shawnee Mission South 28, Shawnee Mission East 37. I'm trying to find ones that I haven't already read. Here we go. Wichita Northwest. Now, we've talked about, running up the score on people. We talked about that Wednesday. And we've also, in that discussion, it came up that Wichita North has endured a couple of pretty severe beatdowns this year, including 80-0 at the hands of Wichita East. Well, last night, Wichita Northwest dropped 92 on North, 92-0, Northwest over North. And that, I think, guys, for a team like North, it gets to be every game has the potential to snowball. All right. And I'm not trying to take anything away from North. Those kids are playing as hard as they can. Okay. But you get psychologically fragile after you've had a couple of beatdowns like that. And then when things start to go bad, then it just snowballs, And so I feel bad for the kids at North. Hopefully they'll get things turned around soon. Wichita West last night with a big win over South, 29-8. And probably the game of the weekend, Wichita at least, Wichita East squeezes by Heights 16-13. So that means then that the Aces of Wichita East are probably in position to finish second there among the, not that they're actually having a championship among the Wichita schools, but the USD 259 schools are only playing each other. Looks like Northwest is probably going to come out on top of that, and Wichita East next out of those two. So if we were having an unofficial Wichita Public Schools championship, looks like that's been pretty much decided with Northwest winning it and East being second. Although they should still have another game or two to go, but so I guess I should say that's kind of where they stand right now. West West has been pretty good this year too. And so those three teams really have kind of stood out, but especially Northwest and East, they're in Wichita. And then those schools won't start playing non-Wichita schools, I don't believe, until the playoffs.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're headed there. All right, let's take a look at some out-of-state scores now. I don't have a ton of them. We do have a few. Especially we try to follow the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle schools here out of state. Hooker got a 26-7 win over Sayre last night in district action. Texhoma big over Merritt, 50-0. Merritt had played Hooker quite a bit closer than that the week before, so we're kind of headed toward a Hooker-Texhoma showdown in that district. Tyrone 55, Sharon Mutual 8, so Tyrone's still showing some strength. Turpin 52, Ringwood 30. Piedmont 57, Guyman 0. So the Tigers continuing to struggle. Yeah, and again, Guyman's one of those teams. We wish them the best. We hope they get things turned around. I think they missed a game or two because of quarantine. I think the Hugoton game may be the only game that Guyman has even scored. So hopefully the Tigers get things turned around there. I think they've got the right coaching staff to get things turned around. I think they've got the support of the community, and hopefully that continues. Pampa 41, Perryton 35, a game that was a little closer than I expected last night. Perryton gave Pampa a pretty good game. So
Pampa's usually pretty good too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Perryton has a history of being pretty good too, but they've been down the last year or two. And so hopefully that means the Rangers are kind of getting things together and getting on the right track there. And here's one that I wrote down because I had no idea Keys was playing football. And I don't know how, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I saw a score of Keys 58, Pecola 8. Now, Keys is the smallest high school in the state of Oklahoma, and last I saw, Keys had either 13 or 14 students in the whole high school. So I assume that is a 6-man game, but I don't know. And I don't think that Keys has been playing a regular schedule. Okay, so my guess is Keys may have just found a way to play a few 6-man games, maybe, because I don't think they've got 8 boys in the high school. I really don't. I might be wrong, but with only 13 students, there's a good chance they don't. So I know nothing about that. I'm going to check with some of the people I know from Keys. I wrote that one down just because I was like, Keys is playing. So I will do some checking on that, and we may talk a little further about that one on Wednesday. Another tight game down in the Amarillo area. Caprock 18 over Canyon Randall 17. That's a big win for Caprock. Plainview 28 over Paladuro 14. Andrews 51, Hereford 7. Canyon gets a big win over Levelland 40-0. Dalhart over Stratford 56-26. Now those are two different sized schools, but they sit there, what is it from Stratford to Dalhart? 30 miles?
I think so.
Those schools kind of sit out there together, and so I'm sure that is a rivalry game. It's great to see them playing each other, even though they are, like I said, definitely two different classifications of schools. Tascosa played close with Midland Lee, 21-31, but Tascosa does lose that one. Boyce City in 8-man action falls to Waynoka 52-6. Booker 48-7 over Boys Ranch. Wheeler 53-22 over Groover. Sunray 44-0 over Shamrock.
Wow.
And that kind of wraps up our Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. Yeah, Sunray, that's a pretty good score for them over Shamrock. So Canadian is the team of the panhandle, Seth Gordon says. They definitely showed it against Hugoton last night, And yeah, that was and he's telling us Amarillo High beat Midland Lee. Well, maybe so. That's great. That would be a big win for Amarillo High, I'm sure. Let's take a look at what's coming up next week in the area.
Garden City at Cape and Mount Carmel.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one because it hopefully will tell us something, because then the next week we've got Capon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You have Hayes coming up, right?
Yeah, no, we've got Great Bend coming up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, we're getting ready for Great Bend. It'd be nice to get 2 WAC wins in a row for us. So we're really looking forward to that game too. All right, let's start in the GWAC. In the GWAC, we've got 4-1 Colby versus 0-5 Russell. Okay, and I'll kind of pick these as we go along. Yeah, I hope that ought to be an easy win for Colby.
Yeah.
We've got in what ought to be a great game, 5-0 Holcomb versus 5-0 Cheney.
Ooh.
Okay, yeah, and that one is probably kind of unofficially for the district championship, to be honest with you. I mean, things could still happen there. Holcomb and Colby have still got to play each other, and so other people might still have something to say about that, but that's definitely for the inside track to the district championship. And, boy, I tell you what, if you look at comparative scores against Hugoton, Hugoton's a common opponent of those two, and Cheney beat Hugoton worse than Holcomb did. But I'm going to be honest with you. Holcomb's won a state championship in the last few years. They've been very strong. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Holcomb and pick them over Cheney, although I think that's going to be a heck of a game.
Yeah.
We've got 2-3 Hugoton at 2-3 Pratt. Most years I would pick Pratt, but this year I think Hugoton's been tested, and I think even though they're only 2-3, I think Hugoton's got a good chance of beating the Greenbacks.
Yeah.
We've got 2-3 Goodland at 5-0 southeast of Saline. I don't think Goodland's got enough to hang with southeast of Saline. I hope they do. I hope Goodland gives them a heck of a game. But, yeah, southeast of Saline to me looks pretty strong there. And southeast of Saline is in that district as well. There'll be another team that has something to say about who wins that district. We've got Scott City 3-2 versus 2-3 Smoky Valley. I think Scott City ought to be able to beat Smoky Valley. That was a 1-point game between Goodland and Smoky Valley this week. Cimarron versus Lakin, both of them 3-2. I think this one ought to be a good game. Those are two old High Plains League rivals, even though Cimarron has moved on to the GWAC now, although I think probably Cimarron is a little more physical. That is if they hold with tradition. I mean, looking in the past, Cimarron has generally been a more physical team, so I'm gonna pick Cimarron in that one. And we've got 2-3 Ulysses versus 1-4 Wellington. They're playing at Dodge City High School Friday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's another one I think that's come up because of COVID cancellations. And because the two schools are so far apart, they probably couldn't agree on who was going to host it. And so they just decided to find a neutral site.
Yep.
So, Ulysses and Wellington will play at Dodge City Friday. And I'm going to pick Ulysses in that one. Ulysses has won 2 in a row.
Go
hopefully
Tigers.
Hopefully the Tigers can turn that into a 3-game winning streak.
Yep.
All right, in the WAC, as we've already said, we've got Hayes against Dodge City. I think Hayes ought to win that game, although in a WAC game, there's never any telling, I think any team can beat any other team on a given night in the WAC.
Yeah.
But Hayes definitely, I think, is the stronger team of those two. And then we've got Garden City at Cape and Mount Carmel. My heart's with the Buffaloes, but my head is definitely with Cape and Mount Carmel. They're looking awful strong this year. And then we've got Liberal at Great Bend. And, of course, I don't pick Liberal games.
I will. I'll pick Liberal on that one. Panthers haven't done a whole lot this year.
Well, they're 0-4 so far this year, and I think that's a great opportunity for both teams. You know what I'm saying? It's a great opportunity for both teams to get a win, and like I said, hopefully it's a good game. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
It's a good game, and both teams come through it healthy. All right, here we go. In the High Plains League, we've got 3-2 Syracuse versus 1-4 Ellis. Syracuse has lost 2 in a row, and they
bounce back.
Yeah, I agree. I think Syracuse is ready to bounce back against Ellis. We've got Lakin at Cimarron. I've already picked Cimarron in that one, although, like I said, I think Lakin's a pretty darn good team this year. They've lost 2 games. They lost to Stratford, Texas, and they lost to was it Holcomb? I think they lost to Holcomb, didn't they?
May have been. Yeah, they're a young team, if I'm not mistaken. I think in the next couple of years, they're going to be pretty stout again up in Bronx country.
Yeah, so I think Cimarron Lakin will be a good game.
Yeah.
I really do. We've got Southwestern Heights 1-4 versus 4-1 TMP. I think TMP's probably got a little too much firepower for the Mustangs this year.
Something in the water in Hayes.
Yeah, definitely. 1-2 Sublette versus 4-1 Conway Springs. I hope Sublette plays well in that game, but again, I think Conway Springs has just got too much for them. And we've got 1-4 Elkhart versus 0-5 Stanton County. I think Elkhart ought to pick up their second win of the season. Although I'm going to tell you, Elkhart, Stanton County, Syracuse, Elkhart, Syracuse. That's a big three-way rivalry between those three schools, and so anything can happen in those games. Mm-hmm. To the Southern Plains Iroquois League, 8-man ball now. We've got 5-0 South Gray at 4-1 Spearville. That ought to be a good game. It really should. Spearville's got a lot of weapons. I think South Gray will probably win that game, though. We've got 4-1 Hodgman County at 1-3 Ness City. Hodgman County has really shown some strength. Their only loss is, I believe, to South Gray, and they've been looking pretty good this year, and they are historically good. Okay, they've been good since before they were Hodgman County, back when they were just Jetmore, so they've always been a strong program. So I don't think Hodgman County probably has much trouble getting by Ness City. By the way, Ness City has had some great teams in the last few years too. Yeah. They're obviously down a little this year, but they have had some state championships in the last 5 years, maybe a little longer ago than that. But anyway, they've had some very good teams in recent years. We've got 2-1 Meade at 5-0 Leota. Leota has really looked strong. Those are two old High Plains League rivals, But yeah, I definitely got to go with Leota in that one as well. 3-2 South Central at 1-2 Dighton. Dighton just lost to Ingalls this last week. South Central has won 2 in a row, and I think South Central probably gets by Dighton. We've got 2-3 Buckland at 2-3 Mineola. I keep picking Mineola every week, and they keep losing every week. I mean, literally every time I pick them, they lose. So I'm going to do the Wildcats a favor and pick Buckland this week. Now,
give them a break, Coach. Just a little in there.
Full disclosure here. My sister teaches at Mineola.
Oh, no.
My sister teaches in Mineola, and we both kind of grew up in Buckland, so
okay.
That's kind of one where my heart goes both ways there on that one. But all right, next we've got Satanta and Ingalls. Ingalls got their first win this last week. Satanta is 0-5. I think it'll probably be a good game, but I think Ingalls will probably get by Satanta. Mm-hmm. And 1-4 Kiowa County at 5-0 Skyline. Skyline's looking strong this year. Yeah. And probably the Thunderbirds are going to get the win there. That's Skyline. Skyline's the Thunderbirds.
Right.
But that's another one where hopefully, Kiowa County, I know they're only 1-4, but Kiowa County has played a couple teams tough this year. Kiowa County's shown a little more strength this year than I expected them to. So hopefully they'll give Skyline a game, but but I do think Skyline's probably got a little too much power for them. Here's, in 8-man ball, it's 8-man ball is a speed game, you know? And so one or two really fast athletes can kind of change the course of an 8-man game. And I know people that watch 8-man ball, people that grew up with 8-man ball, they love it. They'd much rather watch an 8-man game than an 11-man game. And I will tell you, having coached both, 8-man is definitely more action-packed than 11-man. Sure. 11-man's a little slower and more cerebral if you're used to watching 8-man. Yeah. But so, if you've never seen an 8-man game or a 6-man game, I encourage you sometime to get out there and watch those games. Moscow had to cancel their game this week. That's why we don't have a Moscow score. I have not seen a Rolla score. I think Rolla may have been open this week. I looked for a Rolla score and could not find one, so I'm assuming that Rolla was open this week. So hopefully we'll get some 6-man action back in the area in the next couple of weeks. I don't know how long Moscow's going to have to be out, but they canceled this week. Don't know whether they'll be playing next week or not. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on that and try to keep you updated. And obviously, we'll have updates for you Wednesday on what games are on and what games are off. But hopefully everybody can stay healthy. Hopefully those teams that have had some quarantine issues can get back. We've talked about Derby a little bit. Derby originally had 2 players test positive. They at first canceled, news broke that they were in quarantine for 2 weeks and they were going to have to cancel their next 2 games. Then their AD said, no, we're not. Then it turned out they were. The news was reporting Thursday evening that Derby now has 14 positive tests.
Wow.
And so hopefully Derby can get that under control. As a matter of fact, they were talking about the school district was hiring contract tracers. So, hopefully they can get that in check and get those kids healthy again and get that, taken care of there in Derby. And for those schools that are having COVID-19 problems, we wish them all the best.
Yeah.
Luckily, this disease does not seem to hit young people particularly hard. I know there have been some rare cases of young people having some serious complications with it, but for the most part, the young people that catch it, it's pretty low in severity, and hopefully it stays that way because we wish those kids all the best. One thing we certainly don't want to see is kids sick and kids having severe complications from this.
Right.
All right. Vega versus Groover. Vega just upset Clarendon. All right. Thanks, Seth. Seth, we can always count on Seth to, kind of. We can always count on Seth to do 2 things. Number 1, to bring us a little information from the Texas Panhandle, and number 2, to tell Johnson they can go to hell, apparently.
Just a little bit of that rivalry we were talking about earlier there. No, we have it here with Garden and Dodge.
And by the way, shout out to Seth Lujan for listening to us all the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Seth's a great kid. I coached Seth, and then I coached against Seth when I left Elkhart. Seth served our country in Iraq, I believe, maybe in Afghanistan too. I'm pretty sure in Iraq, though. Seth Lujan's a great kid. For those of you that don't know him, I say kid, he is a grown man. All right. But as a teacher and a coach, I always think of my former students and athletes as kids, even though I know they are not. But anyway, it's great to have Seth every week, making his comments and keeping us straight.
Thank you. Seth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say, Kent?
There's some open schedules in the schedule. Wichita South doesn't have a game. Bishop Carroll doesn't have a game next week. Clay Center, Larnard. So there are several schools that are looking for opponents yet. And the standings, ranked teams right now, 6A, you've got Lawrence on top there. Wichita Northwest, which we talked about wrapping that up. They're running the 5A.
And Lawrence and Carroll will be playing each other today.
Oh, today,
I believe
right.
this evening. This evening, Lawrence and Bishop Carroll play. Yeah,
so
that ought to be a great game. Yeah, ought to be a good game. Tell you what, Wednesday we'll try to run over some of the rankings as well. Okay, and we'll make we'll try to throw in a couple of other sports as well. I've found that it's really tough to find volleyball rankings, but we can talk about cross country for sure, and we can talk about some other sports a little bit as well. But we'll take a look at – I want to take a look at 2 things Wednesday, and that is both rankings and district standings for 3, 2, and 1A. Also, something else that's important, guys. We love all of our followers here on Facebook, but this show's going to start transitioning. Not that we're leaving Facebook completely, but we're transitioning to Twitch. So the show will be moving to Twitch in the near future. If you want to keep up with the show, start watching the show live right now by visiting www.twitch.tv/backhomemedia. Okay. And thank you all for your support. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Basically it just has to do with the platform and some of the support that we get from Facebook or don't get from Facebook. And so we will stay here on Facebook, but we're going to start moving to Twitch and to some other platforms as well and try to expand what we're doing and our presence out there. Okay.
We
And
want
so,
you to see our content.
absolutely.
You know,
And
Facebook
so-
is burying content like ours underneath, corporations and things like that. So head over to Twitch and support local, support small guys like us. Back Home Media, there's a variety of entertaining shows there. They do, I think, 11 different shows ranging from sports to mental health to politics to just guys hanging out, having a good time. So there's a little bit of everything there.
Yeah. So again, that is www.twitch.tv/backhomemedia. And like I said, we'll still maintain a presence here, but we're going to start shifting our main presence over to there. And we appreciate all of you that watch us every week, and especially, if you're making the comments and keeping me from saying stupid stuff, or even making me say stupid stuff, So we want to thank all of you, and we'll talk to you Wednesday.
Have a good week.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it, I thought it, that's different. I said what I said and I meant it, or lamented. Words given weight without thought in a person, the way that I talk and the way that I ought to be able to pause and to say that the fault can be placed on my arms. I display full assault to disgrace in this arm. Pray for the day they could wait for the calm. You can't control the storm, only weather it, whether it's 5 weeks and 5 days of rain sideways, or scorched earth, search for death, or water left with all the thorns, with the petals gone, settle on the breath of autumn. If the crown fits, wear it, the crown fits. If the crown fits,